Hello everyone, and welcome to my Wrath of the Lich King Paladin guide. In this guide, I'll be talking about the following things: talent trees and glyphs, and this is for all specializations, consumables and gems that I also like to use for these specializations, stat priority, the new spells that you will get by default, but also the new spells you will get from the different talent trees, and last but not least, some useful tips and tricks. Alright, so let's get into it. The first talent tree that I would like to highlight is the one that I prefer to use as a Holy Paladin. This is mainly for single target healing. You do have the opportunity to reduce the damage taken from the whole raid, but you're not really focused on raid healing. You're more focused on healing the main tank and off tank with Beacon of Light and Holy Light spamming. That's also why I've chosen these kind of glyphs. If you don't have a high enough mana pool to keep spamming Holy Light, then you could always swap into Flash of Light and use the glyph for Flash of Light. The next specialization is Protection Paladin, and the talent tree that I prefer to use most of the times will look like this. You could always swap a few points from the retro tree into Protection tree in case you would like to get more survivability, but the reason why I like this talent tree is because it allows me to build up even more threat, and therefore the DPS will also be able to do more damage without pulling aggro. The last specialization is Retribution. This is going to be such a fun class to play. You still have the high amount of single target damage, but now also the option to do a high amount of AoE damage. When you combine these two things together, but also the opportunity to assist the raid group with healing and different buffs, then you have an amazing and fun class to play. The next two topics will be consumables for each specialization, followed by the gems that I like to use. And I will start with Holy, then Protection and Retribution. As a Holy Paladin, there's a few potions that I like to use. This of course depends on the situation, but also my mana pool. When I lack gear and mana, I usually use a runic mana potion. When I get better gear, but also need to do a high amount of healing in next to no time, then I like to use all my cooldowns together with either Potion of Wild Magic or Potion of Speed. The flask that I always use is Flask of Frostworm to increase my spell power, the main stat for my Paladin. And the food buff is this Deek. If there's a fish feast underground, you could always replace the food buff with that. There's one potion that I mainly use as a Protection Paladin. This will increase my armor by a lot for 2 minutes. I always pop one of these before I pull the boss, and in the fight I can always use another one. If you get low on mana during the fight, you could always use a runic mana potion instead. The food and flask that I use as a tank are the following. I use these to increase my stamina, because stamina is so important for a tank. Potion of Speed is mainly the consumable that I use as a retro paladin together with all my cooldowns, for example wings and trinkets. The Dragonfin Fillet I use when I have enough hit or expertise, so if you lack those stats, you might look for a food buff that increase those. For the flask, it's Flask of Endless Rage to increase my attack power. Moving on to the gems. As a Holy Paladin, these 3 gems is what I prefer to use in the beginning when there's no epic gems available. Intellect is such an important stat and pretty much your main stat. The reason for this is because Intellect does not only increase your maximum mana, it also increases your chance to crit with your healing spells. That's why I prefer to stack Intellect, and also why I choose the following meta gem. So when I spam Flash of Light or Holy Light, I have a chance to restore additional mana. These are the following gems that I use as a Protection Paladin when I'm defense capped. So when I have 540 defense, this is not 540 defense rating. You need to make sure you have a high amount of expertise and hit. If you don't hit the target, you will not be able to do any damage. But once you're hit capped and defense capped, you also need to make sure that you stack up on stamina so you can take a lot of hits without dying. I'll be talking more about hit and expertise in a moment, but first the gems that I prefer to use as a Retribution Paladin. Your main stat will always be strength, but without being hit or expertise capped, then your strength doesn't matter because you won't be able to hit the target and do any damage. As a Retribution Paladin, you will need 8% hit without any buffs. This is also equal to 264 hit rating. As Protection, 169 hit rating. Both specializations will need 26 expertise, so 213 expertise rating. So once you have taken care of your hit and expertise, then you can start focusing on building strength and crit rating. That's why I've chosen those gems as well. Paladins will also receive a lot of new spells by default, so when you're leveling, but also when you reach level 80, and these you will get no matter what specialization you have chosen. If you like to tank, then I have some great news for you. You will get yet another threat ability, Shield of Righteousness. You will slam the target with your shield for a higher amount of damage, and the more block value you have, the higher damage you will also do with this spell. Next up is Divine Plea. You regen 25% of your total mana over the next 15 seconds. When this spell is active, you also reduce your healing done by Holy Light, Flash of Light and Holy Shock by 50%. You can see this in the video. I'm currently healing for around 3000 with my Holy Light, and when the buff expires, around 6000. Overall, you should not use Divine Plea when you're healing, but as a tank, Retry and Holy, I would recommend you to use this in case you're about to get CC'd. So when you're in the CC, you'll regen a lot of mana. When you get out, you're then ready to pump healing or DPS. However, you could always use Divine Plea and heal, but if you do this, then you could for example use your wings, trinkets and consumables at the same time to increase the healing now that you have reduced healing from Divine Plea. Sacred Shield is yet another amazing ability. This you can cast on either yourself or a party member. When the target with the Sacred Shield takes damage, it will get an Absorb Shield that absorbs 500 damage. When the Absorb Shield is active, you will also increase the critical strike chance of your Flash of Light with 50% on the shielded target. The shield can only occur every 6 seconds, so if I get a shield, then I have to wait 6 seconds before I can absorb another 500 damage. In Wrath of the Lich King, the seal and judgment system has been reworked. Back in Burning Crusade, you had to for example activate Seal of Wisdom followed by Judgment in order to activate a debuff on the target. In this expansion, it's completely different. Now you can activate any seal, and then you just use the Judgment of Wisdom in case you would like to apply the old Seal of Wisdom. Seals will now also last for 30 minutes, back in Burning Crusade it was 30 seconds. So you just use another Judgment in case you would like to apply another effect on the target. Next up is the new talents and spells that you will be able to pick for the different specializations, and I will also be talking about some tips and tricks at the same time. At the bottom of the Holy Tree, you will find the spell Beacon of Light. You can cast this on either yourself or a friendly target, and when you heal another target, then the target with Beacon of Light will receive the same healing. So for example here, I heal myself, and the mage receives the same kind of healing. This spell makes paladins amazing main and off-tank healers. You can place the Beacon of Light on the main tank, and then you just cast your heals on the off-tank or the raid group. If you have followed my Holy Talent tree and my Protection Talent tree, then you will get the new spell Divine Sacrifice. When the Paladin activates this spell, then 30% of all the damage taken by raid members within 30 yards of the Paladin will be redirected towards the Paladin. This is of course an amazing way to reduce the damage taken from the whole raid group, but this could also be deadly for the Paladin. Therefore, I always recommend you to use your bubble, so Divine Shield, and then activate Divine Sacrifice. By doing this trick, you will also be immune to all the damage that is redirected towards you. Protection Paladins will become even more insane tanks in Wrath of the Lich King. Back in Burning Crusade, you had a cast time on Avenger's Shield. This has been removed in this expansion, so now you will be able to pull monsters instantly. Back when this spell had a cast time, you would usually not use it in a fight, but now you can just use it in a fight to continue pulling even more. At the bottom of the protection tree, you will find the spell Hammer of the Righteous. This is a cleave ability that allows the paladin to do damage to more than one target at a time. By using this spell a lot, you will also allow the DPS in your group to either cleave or do AoE damage. If they still manage to pull aggro, then you could always use the new spell Hand of Reckoning, a single target taunt, and back in Burning Crusade, you didn't have this ability. In this clip, my paladin is also about to die. But instead of getting killed from the final attack that would usually have killed me, then a spell, or well, a talent activates. So instead of getting killed, I will instead restore a bit of health. This spell has a 2 minutes cooldown and activates automatically when I'm about to die. At the top right corner, you will also receive a debuff, and when this debuff is active, then you won't be able to benefit from Ardent Defender. Retro Paladins will also be buffed. Instead of doing single target damage like they did back in Burning Crusade, you'll now also be able to do AoE damage. This is with the talent Divine Storm at the bottom of the retro tree. Hammer of Wrath is now also instant. Back in Burning Crusade this had a cast time, and therefore you didn't use this when you were raiding as a retro paladin. In Wrath of the Lich King this is not the case, and now Hammer of Wrath will be in your rotation. If you're wondering about the best faction or race for a paladin, then in my opinion it's Human. In Wrath of the Lich King, Human will receive a new racial, Every Man for Himself. This racial will work as a PvP trinket and allow you to break out of any CC. Amazing if you like to PvP, but also super useful in some PvE situations in case you need to get back into the fight to taunt a target, heal, or DPS. So yeah, that's about it for the Paladin. In case you would like to see more class guides, make sure to check out the channel. I'm also posting investment and preparation, but also other videos for Wrath of the Lich King. As always, thank you for watching and have an amazing day. Peace.